our album was done basically. We had enough songs, everything was fine. And then our manager came in with that song because he managed Guns N' Roses, and I guess Izzy Stradlin, the guitar player, had showed him that song because we had an album called Once Bitten, and we thought the obvious follow up should be Twice Shy, but we didn't know about this song. And we thought it was okay, but we didn't know it was going to do what it did.
Mark, welcome to the podcast. Nice to meet you, man.
Thank you, Eric. Good to be here, man.
This is great. I'm looking forward to talking with you about a whole bunch of stuff. But let's start. Let's start with Great White. You're on a summer tour right now. Brett Carlisle on lead vocals, Scott Snyder on bass, Michael Lardy on guitar, Audie Desbro on drums, and of course you, right. Mark Kendall on lead guitar. Yeah. So you're playing shows with some big names: Bret Michaels, Dee Snider, Stephen Pearcy, Ace Frehley, Slaughter, Steven Adler of Guns N' Roses. Tell us about what fans can look forward to on this tour, and where can they get tickets?
You can just go to our website. As far as tickets, I don't really know except Ticketron or whatever. You can probably find out from where we're playing a lot. We always have the information on, you can find out when we're going to be in your area on officialgreatwhite.com.
Yep, I think you get tickets through there.
Yeah. But, in the old days, the way we tour, we'd go out, say, like 6, 7, 8 months with like the Scorpions or whatever, or go out 5 or 6 months with Judas Priest. Now the way we're playing, we're not out on a bus, we're flying to the shows. So we might play with, just anybody. I mean, we played a couple shows with Styx. We might REO Speedwagon, or, like you're saying about the festivals. There's a lot of festivals this time of year. So they usually like to put a nice package together. People come down and relive their younger years or whatever with the music,
And what's cool is there's some younger folks, I'm sure, showing up at those gigs too, because I run into people just today. He's like maybe in his 20s, and he's like, "Oh, I love Leonard Skinner." It's like, "Oh, that's great." It's like,
yeah,
this is good to know.
It's a little different with my parents, because they were so far removed from anything that resembled rock. I mean, even with the Stones, Beatles, it was like, my dad was a jazz trumpet player. So, it's like every album he had a guy blowing horn on it or something, So we really couldn't relate to that so much. But with our stuff, at least it rocks, you know what I mean? So if you got a 20-something-year-old kid, he's gonna, maybe my parents weren't so corny, man. This, at least it rocks. Yeah. At least it rocks, and they jump around like they're into it.
There is a closer gap in generations. Yeah, like my dad and mom born in 1939, so for them it was Sinatra, Dean Martin, Johnny Mathis, Glenn Miller. So nowadays it seems like that gap is a lot closer.
Yeah. Yeah, and not that all those people are great that you just mentioned. It just the genre is so different that, like, we're just probably not going to go to a concert like that. You know what I'm saying? So even if the kid's into death metal, he can probably still relate big guitars, singers out there putting some energy into the show, the drummer blasting away. So, it's not that far away.
Yeah, and there's a great bluesy vibe to Great White too. I want to ask about that. Yeah. But let's talk about, you mentioned your dad being a musician, and it talks about this on the official website for Great White, that you come from a musically gifted family. You grew up in Huntington Beach, California. Tell us about your parents, what your childhood days were like growing up in Huntington Beach.
Well, I actually, we moved to Huntington Beach. We lived in a lot of suburbs of Los Angeles, like within 100 to 150 miles of LA. So yeah, when I was 15, we moved to Huntington Beach for a couple of years until I moved out. But growing up, I actually kind of discovered the instrument by accident. My friend across the street, he was like the engine guy in the neighborhood. You know, he built the mini bikes, the go-karts, you know. So we, you know, we'd have fun on that type of stuff. And, you know, I was playing baseball. I, you know, was in Little League and all the stuff that normal kids do. But he had a band that used to jam in his garage. And I used to watch him. Every time I heard him, I ran over there and looked through this little window on the side. And one day the bass player was playing with his teeth, and that just wigged me out. I went and begged my dad to get me a guitar, and he got me one. And there was a couple kids in the neighborhood that were kind of advanced on guitar, so I learned chords off them and kind of really didn't put it down much for like a year. And when I was 10, I knew 4 songs that I'd been jamming with another guitar player. And I know the songs. It was Wipeout, Pipeline, Secret Agent Man, and Gloria. And we played for the 4th grade class. And the 5th grade class came into our class. So after we play our 4 songs, that's all we know. So we just played Pipeline again while they were walking out.
That's great.
And,
I was just listening to Stevie Ray Vaughan's version of Pipeline just yesterday.
Oh,
great version.
Yeah. There's 2 guitar parts to those songs. Like Secret Agent Man has 2 guitar parts. So all the, you know, Gloria, we just kind of we're winging it and just both playing the rhythm. But it's pretty amazing when I think back to when I was 10 years old. I'm like orchestrating these guitar parts and I barely know how to play, you know. So I was literally learning from, it seemed like the same 3 chords were in all these songs, you know. So I knew enough, you know, I knew a few chords to where my ear was kind of good because I used to listen to my parents' records, you know, Girl from Ipanema. I used to sing along. And my mom one day, she actually said I sing in key.
Yeah.
So my ear was good, you know, my pitch, and I heard music well. So I don't know, it didn't come that hard as far as just picking it up and learning chords. So it just kind of went on from there. I played baseball till I was 18, and my dad wanted me to be a pro ball player. But, you know, the guitar just kind of won out. You know, it was like I was a little disheartened in baseball because there was guys better than me. And I didn't really feel like any scout's going to come and check me out.
So were you a pretty good ball player though? What position?
Oh, it's good. You know, I hit home runs. I was a good pitcher. When I was about 17 and a half years old, my arm was hurting a little bit. My upper arm past the elbow. And when I was 12 years old, my curveball used to break like 4 feet. I mean, it was like this big hook. And people are telling me that I'm going to throw my elbow out.
Too early.
That never hurt me.
Really?
I never got hurt. I threw curves my whole life. But what I think it might have hurt me was fastballs. I think I kind of threw my upper arm out, you know, and thinking back, had I worked out with light weights, maybe trained better. But back then it wasn't like today. They didn't have these pro training camps. You know, our coaches just said, go play, and whoever had the most natural ability was the good player. You know, it wasn't like, you know, now 12-year-olds look like little pros, you know, all their mechanics and fundamentals are perfect, you know. So I probably did things wrong, but I had enough skills where I actually, when I was 17, I was hitting home runs, but not as many as some of the other guys, you know. And you really have to stand out above the entire league. And your numbers have to be crazy, and you got to be getting write-ups every week before any pro scouts are going to come your way, you know, or you're just an incredible pitcher. I mean, you know, throwing it 95 miles an hour when you're like 18, you might get signed. I actually, a friend of mine's son got signed by the Dodgers at 17 years old. So that kind of stuff can happen. But, you know, I just really, to be honest, I didn't feel I was good enough to be a pro baseball player.
Now,
but I'm still a fan.
Who are you a fan of? What's your team?
Well, my local team's the Dodgers.
Yep.
I've been a fan since I was like, you know, 10 years old or even younger. used to have boxes of baseball cards, been through all these decades of different players and everything, you know.
Sandy
So,
Koufax,
yeah,
Fernando Valenzuela.
yeah, all
Yeah.
these eras, even basketball was the same. It was like Chamberlain, Jerry West, and then, you know, it always had the thinner guard combo every decade until our most recent decade. And I kind of lost interest. It's weird. It was like nobody had this type of star power or the kind of skills, the fast break and all that to get my attention. And I kind of gravitated away from basketball. It's so weird because I was a fan for, 4 decades, but I still follow baseball.
So was rock and roll still, were you in bands during this period?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I moved out actually just right after I turned 18. I moved out, and a friend of mine got me a job in a potato chip factory, Lay's potato chips, and we used to weigh the rolls of impressions of potato chips, put them in boxes, and just kind of put tape on it, And we were in a cover band, so we were playing like 5 sets a night at clubs and working during the day, this day gig, right? And we came up with something because we talk about nothing but music. I worked right with the guy. So if the boss was coming around, we would point and, we would just have this distracting point job to where he'd think we're talking about something to do with the factory. You get me? But we're talking about Led Zeppelin and what song we're going to learn, or you know what I mean? And it was like it really worked good. It looked like we were really into our job. But so that's the way it started out. We were just we're playing all the clubs, and that's kind of how I discovered Van Halen, because they were a local band, and I actually went and saw them when I was like 16, and one thing I noticed pretty quickly was they played every night somewhere. And I go, how can we do that? So I was more inspired than the guitar player obviously was just insane, but I was more, because I'm in a band too. So I'm following their work ethic and how much they work. These guys are playing everywhere. And, so that really inspired me.
Yeah, you talked to my buddy Jeff Goebel. We both write for the Van Halen news desk, and he did a great interview with you, and you talked about, I think you were chatting it up with David Lee. And David Lee Roth was filling you in like, hey man, you got to just do any gig you can get, just hit the pavement, man.
I actually asked him. I posed the question, how do you get your gigs? Because do you have an agent?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
He said him and Eddie just get on the phone and call and say, hey, can we audition or whatever? And so they started playing clubs. And then when they got in Hollywood, they became like the house band at Guitarist. And then by that time, they had enough originals to where on the weekends they would go play showcases.
You saw them at a junkyard, though. I love the story that you saw them at a junkyard.
Yeah.
Was it for $1?
They played 3 blocks from my house. We walked there and paid $1 to get in. They had kegs of beer and stuff. And you see the guitar player, because my friend had told me how great he was. And this dude's like outlandish on guitar. So I wanted to see it. But when we first walked in, the singer, Dave Roth, was laying on the ground, blowing a tube inside of the floor tom. And he was playing like, it sounded like Wipeout. And I'm going, like, when does the guitar thing gonna go down? And anyways, they launched in, and you could tell right away this guy, there's something different going on. Now, they had the biggest musician following too.
Was Michael Anthony in the band at the time, or was this before Mike? Okay, so Michael Anthony.
Okay.
Now,
Roth.
Yeah, David.
He had just joined, I think, not that long before that.
Wow. So was Eddie, there were stories about Eddie with his back to the audience, because you just said a lot of musicians love him. Like,
I never saw that.
Yeah.
I've heard people say that, but I never seen him turn his back on the audience, because it took a long time before he started doing the
Right.
eruption type thing. So he didn't even have a wing bar on a tremolo bar on his guitar. He was
Right.
playing Les Paul when I first seen him,
Right.
and he so you saw him switch guitars and whatnot, but the bar came later and the finger tapping came later. But I never saw him like turn his back and try to hide what
Yeah.
he's doing or whatever.
Yeah.
I've heard that said, but I saw him a lot, and I never seen that one
Okay.
turning his back or whatever.
Yeah, for those who don't know that story, that wasn't because Eddie was shy, which he was, but Dave was just saying like, don't let anybody steal your stuff. You know, he's just
Oh,
doing all that
yeah,
wild, you know.
finger
But
thing. Yeah.
so, how many times did you see Van Halen? Like, did you see as Eddie's progressing with
Oh
the
yeah,
with the new things he's
we
doing?
used to go a lot, quite a bit. Even go to Guitarist, or if they played the Starwood or something, we went. I remember one time I was drinking a little bit too much. I haven't drank for like a long time, but I wasn't being mean or rude or anything. But I was talking to Roth, and I don't even know what I was talking about, but he started looking up in the air and he goes, "It's raining in here." Like I guess I would for me talking, and maybe I was overly excited. Like I guess a little spittle got up. And he said it's raining in here. It was
Oh
hysterical.
man! So
But
what was Dave an interesting character? Because he
yeah, he was actually quite sweet. Actually, I've talked to him a few times, just sitting and talking. One time I was playing in a pool tournament in Pasadena, and he was upstairs eating. I went up and sat down and talked to him because my brother had hung out with him before, and he has this reputation like he's some big ego guy, but all he was talking about is me. He kept saying, "What are you up to? How's the band
wow,
doing? This, that, and the other." It's like all he wanted to know was what I was doing, and so he likes to engage in
he
conversation
does. Yeah, he
with
loves
people.
people. Yeah,
Yeah, but it's not a me thing. He just digs on going back and forth, and definitely he acted like he was really curious on what the
yeah,
band was up to.
that's
So
cool.
I've always appreciated that.
Yeah, listening to Great White all these years, there's a real bluesy influence there. Who are the bands, the artists, the guitarists that influence your sound? You're wearing a Keith Richards shirt.
Yeah, several actually, but most played with kind of a lot of passion and feel and whatnot. Um, the first one I remember when I was 14 because I was just so blown away by him was Carlos Santana, and I was jamming with these guys, and I was like demanding that we play like Santana. It was like we were a Santana tribute band, but we weren't. But I just wanted to play Santana because I saw him on that Woodstock concert, and he just grabbed this note. I've told the story before, but it was so mind blowing. He grabbed this note, and the look on his face was like it was like he's holding this note for dear life or something. I mean, the guy was sweating bullets, and he was just grabbing this note, and I don't know why that just kind of it just I want to play with that much effort and really feel what I play. My dad was kind of like that, the way he played trumpet. He really squeezed the note, got the maximum out of it. So maybe I get a little from him, but then I discovered guitar players. So I was loyal to all of them, but I would move from one to the next. Like once I got into Johnny Winter, it's like I wanted to learn everything he did. And then I'd get into Alvin Lee for a while. I was playing like I'm going home note for note at
Oh
16.
yeah, 10 years after.
Just
Yeah,
from playing, just from learning it. It took a long time to learn it and play it fluid. Live in front of people. But I was so fascinated by his performance at Woodstock again. But and then later years, um, when I heard Rio Grande Mud, that ZZ Top album, I'm going, who's this guy? Billy Gibbons. I was
yeah.
like, and I've actually had the opportunity a few times to hang out with him. He's real sweet, and his wife is awesome. Been to a few shows. Yeah, the way he plays, he's so effortless. It's like he used to get more, like have more body shapes, but now I think, and I've heard people say this, when you get up in years, like you can get do everything you did before, but with less effort. You get me? You're not wasting a bunch of energy, but you still get the same result. He just looks like, he makes it look so easy. But he really feels it.
He does. Even on Eliminator, it gets talked a lot about the synthesizers on that album, but he's all over that album. Like,
Oh yeah,
what
no
the
question.
bluesy track on there is amazing.
Bam, 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 bam. That's a
Yeah,
pretty good one.
I got the six. Yeah,
Oh, you
but
got the nine.
yeah, it's the bluesy track on
Lyrically,
there.
I mean, lyrically, he's a genius too. If you've ever
Yes, and
checked
the
out his
voice, what a
lyrics,
voice too.
I actually wanted to find out, like, what is he talking about? Like, on the Trace Hombres album, I'm going, Master of Sparks. What is this about? I
Yeah,
mean, it's just so weird. And he said they explained it. It was about this guy that used to go out in a pickup truck and have this barbed wire all like wrapped in a big ball and get the truck hauling ass and then throw it out and all these sparks would happen. So,
that's cool.
so
That's him doing the
called
voice
them
too,
the
Billy.
yeah, they called him the Master of Sparks. That this certain guy that is just crazy, but
I got the
he's
six, by the way. I'm sorry. I need you tonight.
yeah,
I need you tonight is the one I'm talking about from
yeah,
Eliminator.
yeah.
I need you
Oh yeah,
tonight,
I need
and that bluesy.
that ballad they do.
On the next
Rough
one.
boy,
Oh,
the
Rough Boy. I
rough boy.
love Rough Boy.
I'm a
But see,
rough boy.
and that's interesting.
He,
So you weren't of that. There were people like, well, this isn't old school ZZ Top. What are they doing? But they were pushing it forward. But I still felt like it was the ZZ Top sound. It was still ZZ Top to me.
yeah, oh yeah. They were just trying, giving you a slightly different look. Having some looping, grooves underneath, and yeah, there was some synth in there, but he still had the guitar thing. He didn't change anything that he did.
They were
And
also
look how
smart
huge
enough
it's
to
going.
know about, like, obviously music videos, but stage presence, image, the way you look, dress, of course, the long
Yeah,
beards and all that.
yeah,
But
yeah,
did you take inspiration from a band like that, and of course David Lee Roth, making sure you have that stage presence because it's the whole package.
yeah, yeah. I found this hat and I started wearing the hat, and people were talking about this hat, and I wore shades. That became kind of an image, and I had a certain thing around it, and people, you know, like the shades. I think I'd get them from truck stops for $4, and people thought, like almost like I had them made or something.
Cheap
No,
sunglasses.
they're just cheapy. Yeah, they're just cheapy. But yeah, so you want to look good on stage and image. But as far as like an image like that's you know massive makeup and anything like that, we didn't do that.
No,
That's a different level.
no, you
We,
in
we but
Tesla,
but
Great White, there were bands like that yeah, they weren't pretty.
we were just wanted we wanted you to can tell we're in a band, but we didn't go too flamboyant on you.
Yeah, so talk about when you guys formed. This is, I believe, in '77.
That's incorrect, actually.
Okay.
It was '79. I met Jack Russell. A friend of mine told me about this guy that was in a band, and my singer was a little bit old for us, and he couldn't quite hit the notes, and so we were ready to move on from him. But what I ended up doing is leaving the whole situation, and just Jack and I made a band, and it
Okay.
just kind of went on and on from there. He got in some trouble, which that worried me a little bit. So I ended up getting another singer. But in the meantime, a year and a half later, he came back and auditioned, and my band had written a lot of songs, and so he just kind of glued right into it. And we were playing around Hollywood, and we played around for a couple of years, and then then got some attention, or got an opportunity with an A&R man to make an EP.
That was in '84. The first
82.
82, and then the
82.
first full album is '84, the self-titled.
Yeah, 83, I think late 82, something like that. We put out the 5 songs. We got airplay on one of the stations in Los Angeles called KMET. But we didn't really have a record deal. It was just a distribution. So it's kind of ironic that we were getting in heavy rotation on a song with no deal.
Which song was that?
Got On Your Knees.
On Your Knees, okay.
Yeah. It was like the big PMRC thing and everything. So, we're getting that attention. So we did get the full deal. And then Michael Wagner produced that album, engineered and was part of the production team. And then we went on tour with Whitesnake in the UK for, I think, 2 or 3 months. And then we came back with Judas Priest in the States. And that was 84.
Okay. Who came up with the band name, Great White?
Actually, my singer, Jack Russell, used to call me Great White when I would do a solo during a song back in the day in the clubs and stuff, because I'm like the whitest guy in the world, right? So he'd say like Kendall, the Great White, And anyway, so when we met Alan Niven, the A&R man, the following day, because he gave us his card this night that we played the whiskey, we found out when we went the next day that he thought we had potential. He liked a couple of the songs, but hated our name. We're going, oh no, band name. We're thinking we got to think of a new name, right? Because he don't like our name, which was Dante Fox. It is, pretty bad, but
Dante Fox. Okay.
Yeah, we kind of settled on it. It was like, it wasn't so much we loved the name. It just, we abandoned trying to think of anything else. We just said, that's just going to be it. I don't care. I'm not going to think of a name anymore. But anyways, I guess he was out in front of the whiskey waiting for his car or something. And I drove by, stuck my head out the window of a car, and I screamed something. I don't know what it was. But he said the kid next to him pointed to the car and goes, there goes Great White. Because he never heard that. He didn't hear Jack say it. He didn't happen to say it that night.
Oh, it was meant to be.
So when he heard that, he already hated our name. He knew he hated our name. But when the kid said, there goes Great White, something clicked in his head right there, and he just said, that's their name. But we don't know it till the next day. And when he tells us, you don't have to think of a name. I got a name. He goes, Great White. We didn't think of the shark or anything like that. So we didn't totally love it right out of the gate,
Wow.
But once we did think of the shark, we thought, hey, that's a pretty cool name, because it's not the type name where you have to play a certain kind of music. Like, how a name like Slayer, you figure they're going to be pretty heavy. Our name really, if somebody says, oh, Great White's playing and you never heard him before, you really don't know what you're going to go listen to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we liked it for that reason also.
So before I ask you about the albums that really blew up and they were hugely successful, the first 2 albums, you got the self-titled debut and then Shot in the Dark in '86. They're often forgotten because of the hit albums, but what stands out to you when you think about those first 2 records?
Well, the first album, we were really trying to be something that we weren't, and it wasn't successful. We were trying to be like Judas Priest and early Scorpions, even though it didn't turn out that way. But we were trying to be heavy and, because we thought that was the thing to do. We're young. It's the early stage of our writing. Then then we get dropped off the label after the Judas Priest tour. EMI America dropped us off the label. So we borrowed some money and went and made another record and called it Shot in the Dark. Well, KLOS, was also one of the biggest stations in Los Angeles at the time. KMET and KLOS were the 2 big stations. They put Face the Day on the radio in heavy rotation, and it became #2 song of the year. So that got the attention of Capitol Records. An A&R man came down to San Juan Capistrano and saw us play at the Coach House and signed us that night. So, you know, we're getting our second opportunity here again because of a radio station. And, you know, we're so grateful for that, because not everybody gets a second chance.
Yeah.
It's funny.
In those days, radio stations, they had that type of influence. And MTV, of course, but radio.
The other thing, you know, I've kind of studied other bands because I'm curious, you know, is there any similarities to Tom Petty beginnings and ours? You know, I look into that kind of stuff, and I'm watching his documentary. And like, I was talking to the singer for REO, and he's like, they didn't hit until their third album. It's like, not everybody comes out of the gate with the, you know, and just blows the world up, you know, with excitement.
Very true.
Sometimes you got to grind it out a little bit, and then, you know, when your back's against the wall, sometimes you come with it.
Right.
When you have to. You
know. I'm a huge Petty fan. I remember Tom Petty. That first album didn't do much. Yeah, they were trying they were trying to label them or market them as like a punk band or a new wave.
Unbelievable grinding story he has. No money, running out of gas, you know, trying to get to LA, and oh my God,
it's amazing.
It's incredible.
Well, another guy, Sammy Hagar, was like that too, just grinding it out as a solo artist when he left Montrose, just tour album until he slowly built up that following. And you guys did that too. And then of course that sets up the 87 album, Once Bitten, number 23. Yeah. The album goes platinum. Rock Me, Save Your Love reached the Hot 100 top 10 rock radio singles. Lady Red Light also did well on rock radio. Did you feel like the band was hitting their stride by then? Did you feel good about the songs when the album was released?
Well, here's my deal is it's the first time I've ever like listened back. I remember sitting in the control room with the record company all there, and I heard Rock Me come back at me, you know, through the speakers at a pretty decent volume. And I you know, you don't know if the people are gonna gravitate toward it, but to me, it sounded like amazing. You know, I couldn't believe what I was hearing, because, you know, you kind of get a little bit of tunnel vision, and, you know, you're overdubbing your stuff, and the stuff's you know, it's not like we were totally playing live in the studio. So I really didn't know what we did until we were done. And when I heard it back, I felt like it had a good chance to do something, but I was a little worried about how long it was. It was 7 minutes long, and we'd never had a hit song before. You know, we're going to radio with a 7-minute song. So the manager does a funny little trick, just to be humorous. Every song on the album, he put 3 minutes and 59 seconds. So when the radio stations got the single, it said 3:59, Rock Me, 3:59, but
brilliant.
It was 7 minutes. So then the phones are lighting up, the song's going big. We're out with Night Ranger, you know, we're on tour, songs on radios everywhere. You know, it's a big hit. So by the time they figured it's 7 minutes, I guess it was, you know, almost too late or something, probably. I don't know that, but you know what I mean? I mean, you know, I think they like the shorter stuff, but you know, it was kind of an AOR type time a little bit. I know it wasn't like it is now with the classic rock, you know, like at 1:10 every day is when Petty will be on. It's like, it's like the whole thing's on a clock. Mm-hmm. It was a little bit more random back then, it felt like.
Yeah, I worked in radio for a while, and it was just, I played the same songs every night after night after night.
Yeah.
And then they'd move Tom Petty's Free Fallin' from like 2 p.m. on Monday, and then they played at 4 p.m. on Tuesday, and that was mixing it up. It's like,
That's funny.
okay.
Well, you know exactly what I mean then.
Oh
But
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
but I'm so grateful they play us though. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
we're not quite the oldies band. We're kind of the classic rock deal or something. And you know, I still get the chills when I hear anything of us on the radio. I just think it's the greatest ever.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
was going to ask, like, what's your memory of the first time you heard us, any of your songs on the radio? What that felt like?
but the very first time was on your knees on that EP, and you know, you just can't believe it. And you know, you never think you're good enough. You know, but it wasn't too long before that when my mom was coming out in the garage saying, "Can you guys tone it down? Tone it down."
Bring you
She
right
never
back down
told
to
us.
earth.
She didn't tell us to turn it down. It was tone it down. Oh, just roll off a little treble, huh? Okay,
I
no
love that.
problem.
Well, your solo on Rock Me is so damn good. Do you recall any stories, memories of recording that song? I want to ask you about some of the other songs too.
Yeah, you know, I'm just trying to do things that are memorable that I think fit the song, and some, you know, trying to play as sweet as possible. I'm kind of a fan of that. I don't just want to play a bunch of notes and try to get attention. I'd rather play something musical because I've always been a fan of singers. Even when I was a very little kid, like 5, 6 years old, I'd sing. I'd just sing along. Even when my dad got me Hendrix, Cream, and the Doors, I didn't even hear the guitar when I was listening to Hendrix. I was singing with him. I was singing "Hey Joe." I was singing Manic Depression or whatever. And and so later in life, I'm playing guitar. My thinking is, how come just singers get to sing all these beautiful melodies? Why can't I? Why can't I try to incorporate a little of that? I mean, you want to do some things that are a little fast for a dynamic, or maybe the end of the solo flurry a little bit. But I want to do things like Jimmy Page did with Stairway to Heaven. I mean, you know, a solo that lives on its own forever. Not just the song, how great that is, but can you believe how cool that solo is? You know, and it's not because it's technically, you know, this highly skilled GIT monster thing. It's just so beautiful, and it fits so well in this. And the sound of it is great, and the way, the length of the notes, and you know what I mean.
But yeah,
So
yeah.
that's my thinking. In other words, has never been how many notes can I get away with before the band's going to say something. My thinking is, what can I do to make this song the best it could possibly be? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
guess that's why I play the way I do. You know?
How about Save Your Love? Do you remember any memories of recording that, writing the song?
Yeah. Actually, I was over at this friend of mine who was a really good songwriter, and you know, it's kind of writing with him, and he kind of had this heavy metal approach to Save Your Love, believe it or not, with this big intro, heavy guitars, and we decided to bring it down into like more of an acoustic and maybe some strings, and make it more of that type song that maybe lifted in certain areas with the dynamics. It was really never a big hit except for when we played it live. It wasn't like it was, you know, a top 10 single or anything, I don't think. But when we played it live, people wigged out. You know, they called it a turntable hit.
Yeah.
Back then, the turntable hit. It's like when the fans discover songs that aren't getting a lot of attention. You know, maybe they discover them on the album and they go, wow, I really love this song too.
I'm just looking, this is funny. The Save Your Love edit, the length, 3 minutes and 59 seconds.
I told you. Yeah,
That's funny.
359. Everything was 359. You know, and it was really done at it just being humorous. It wasn't like we were trying to get away with something. It was just being funny. Like, I
Yeah.
wonder, it's like, you know, like in movies, like they'll put a frog in every scene, just to see if somebody notices it.
Yes.
We did it in this. We were in this movie called God, um, dude, I can't remember the name of the movie now.
Is it what was it a well-known movie? One I'd recognize?
Um, yeah, it was with Beverly D'Angelo.
Oh, I could look it up.
Yeah, what was that?
Because I still remember seeing.
We just played the band. We just played the band in the movie. But anyways, they were putting some kind of a animal thing in every single scene to where just to see if the director would notice it. And if nobody notices it, when the movie's all done and in theaters, they can go watch it and go, look, there it is. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I don't know if it's a little thing. But,
Now I'm curious as to which movie that is because I remember
it was with what
Made to Order?
Made to Order. Yeah, Made to Order.
1987. Here we go. Yeah, IMDb. Yeah. I think they mentioned because that White Lion was in The Money Pit with Tom Hanks and Shelley Duvall in 1986.
Oh yeah.
And I remember watching that on HBO. I'm like, wait a minute, that's White Lion. But they were unknown at the time. They were just like they were hired. White. They were the wedding band.
White, they
were the wedding band.
Oh, that's cool.
That's
cool.
How did you like making videos? I heard they could be long days.
Not really so much because of the waiting, but I remember when we did Stick It on the first album, it was kind of fun because my brother was there in the crowd, and Tom Jones. When we took a break, I was watching Tom Jones rehearse in this other room that was attached to where we were doing it. It was badass. You know, Tom Jones, the singer.
Yep.
And he was going to be on Johnny Carson. We got to talk to him a little bit. He's going on Johnny Carson the following night and doing a rehearsal for that. But just watching that guy, you know, sing perfect, and you know, he just has, you know, a t-shirt on with sweatpants, and you know,
the ladies loved him.
Sounding all godly, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy, his pipes is pretty incredible, man.
You know, making the video, I've always heard it's like a long, laborious thing, but boy, it pays off though. It moved units, as they would say.
Yeah, we were excited. We were excited with the whole MTV, and you know, we were really getting our music out there, and you know, the videos. It was fun. Yeah. They didn't let us go on the days. If they shot girls, they wouldn't let us be there on that day because it would distract from the whole shooting scene. But sometimes we were in with them, so we had to be there. But there were times when they hung the chick on the hook and stuff. I mean, they didn't want us down there gawking at her.
Yeah.
They literally, like today, they wouldn't do it that way. They would just get a chick sitting on a chair and then dub in the hook.
Sure.
You know, but he's actually hanging on this thing.
Yeah.
But yeah. So the videos. I mean, because see, back then the equipment. They had train tracks, and you know, if we didn't use drones, we used helicopters if we were doing an aerial shot. You know, we're doing a shot up on a building. Now it would take us just minutes to do it with a drone, but we actually get helicopters with cameras out. You know,
yeah.
So it everything took longer. You know, the setups, you know, took longer. Now we've done videos, you know, we did a video a few years ago, and all the equipment's small now, but it's the same quality. Get me?
You could do everything on your phone.
I did a solo on a street right down from my house, and we were waiting for the traffic. I had to run out there when no cars were coming. And we had a drone, multiple cameras.
It's amazing.
That, you know, and it looked great, you know. It was black and white. It was badass.
I still it's crazy for me to think, because working in radio for so many years, I had to drive like 45 minutes to an hour to get to a microphone. And now I'm in my apartment. It's like, that's where we're at now. Like a musician, you could record at home. You could record a whole hour. Or during COVID, you could do stuff where like, here's my parts. I'll record my parts here. You do yours where you are. It's so different.
I do a radio show now in Palm Springs.
Cool.
And what I do is it's total freeform, so I can play any song I want. So I get the list of songs, and I literally do all the rapping on my phone, and then the guy edits it together. I don't even go to the station. I'm not
Voice
sitting with the
tracking,
mic
right?
like that.
The voice
Yeah,
tracking, they call it. Yeah.
it's just my memo recorder, and it's high quality. It sounds perfect.
Yeah.
I've heard the shows.
I used to pre-record a shift, and then I am in my car listening to myself on the radio. It's like, it's just the strangest thing, but that's it. Like Sirius XM, I think Sirius XM, I think, does that a lot, where a lot of the DJs you hear there, they're at home, they do it like you're doing it, and then they insert in all the breaks. But it was fascinating to see, because you would have all the spots on a sheet of paper. This is when you talk, this is the song you're going to introduce. And
right.
It was kind of a bummer, though, because the magic of radio was doing that thing live. And that was, I came from, my dad did radio before me, and it was like an art form, but it's great that you get to pick your own songs. That's great.
Yeah. See, what's different it's just like I was saying about the video, how the setups took longer because there was a lot bigger gear. It was just, everything's faster now. And, but the era you're talking about is human connection, driving to work.
Yeah.
You feel like you're doing something, and now we can do it all from home. And that's why kids are home, playing video games on their computers. And you know what I mean? To where everything I had to do coming up, I had to leave the house to get it done. If I wanted to promote the band, I couldn't sit behind a keyboard. I had to get a staple gun and my posters and go to Hollywood.
Yeah.
And it was like that way with everything. Everything took footwork.
And obviously the business models changed so much. So the big question, I'm sure you've been asked so many times, streaming services, what do you think about it?
I just deal with it. The thing I like about when I grew up is it was so eventful to go to a record store, buy an album, spend a whole day listening to physical graffiti, get some beer,
save up, saved up for it too. Yeah, you worked a job to save up for it.
The event itself of buying a record was just so cool. I don't know, there was something about it, and so it's just a lot more human connection, different world. As far as the way it's today with the streaming, we just want it. We have internet assassins. They know how, the best way to get our music to people, but it's just a little different, It's not the way it was. I think the kids today are more song orientated than, knowing who's in bands. Like I always knew the guitar player, bass player, drummer, and singer. I always knew everybody's name in every band, what they played.
Like a baseball team.
Who produced the album even,
Who did the artwork?
Lyrics, reading the lyrics,
Yeah.
And I don't know, there's just something to say about that. But, now I think, kids might wake up before school and download like 15 songs, 2 from that guy, 2 from him, to where it's not that hands-on. My favorite guitar player is this guy.
Right. The connection.
You know what I mean?
As an artist, do you get like a check a year for royalties? Like, how does that work? Through streaming?
Yeah, we, quarterly, monthly, the songs still get played all over in different mediums, TV, some movies occasionally, which you usually get a simp fee for that, plus, so much. So there's a lot of areas. One thing good about today is the songs, the airplay is counted more accurately, because it's not like the days of jukeboxes where you're going by that thing that spins around.
Yep.
Now everything's piped into the internet, so it's easier for ASCAP and Sound Exchange, all these different entities to count your songs correctly so they can pay the artist properly.
Yeah, we had a music log we'd sign each hour. At the end of each hour, sign that log. because I think that was part of the reason why, obviously for commercials too. But yeah, guitarist and founding member of the Grammy-nominated band Great White, Mark Kendall is here. But the other thing I was going to mention too, what's crazy too, is like TikTok, Instagram, like the younger culture is like, I put up all these videos and it's the short videos that get the most views. It's like the 40-second shorts, 50 seconds. It has to be a minute or less. I don't know if I like that or not, but it is what it is. It is what it is.
You know what I noticed, being, modern day Facebook, this X, Twitter, whatever, the things that the fans respond to most is never the pictures on stage, like where you're jamming and you got the best shape of your life and your guitar is just looking cool and you're looking cool and the lights are badass. They respond more to us in airports eating, or, maybe just standing there or backstage just chilling, because I think they get to see us on stage all the time. And I know me as a fan, I want to know, does Billy Gibbons drive through McDonald's? What does he do when he's not blowing my mind with his guitar? And I think the fans like that. They want you to show a little bit of yourself away from the stage, because I'm just judging by the likes that it gets. These candid shots of us just goofing around, we'll get like thousands of likes, and maybe this on stage shot that's the greatest ever, it doesn't really get their full attention, because they've already seen that.
Well, do you have people, like, I know your publicist reached out to me so we could do this interview. Like, do you have people that do, like, they make sure you post something every day? Like Sammy Hagar posts something every day and it's because it's like a necessity in order to get your name out there and keep your name out there. I notice Sammy will put something up every day, and that's intentional. Like, you gotta do it. It's like it's necessary.
We kind of do that, just on our own, and we're always taking selfies, or maybe get the tour manager take a shot of the band, when we're not looking so good.
Yeah, right.
And just to show, man, we're just human. We're just these goofy guys that trying to have fun here.
It works,
and sharing that with with people who like the band.
Oh, it was a former manager of Kiss, and I can't remember his name now, but he was talking about he still manages nowadays, and he's been around for a while, and he just was telling his bands, he's like, it used to be, guys, we wanted to get your songs on the radio, MTV, and then tour a lot. He's like, now you got to be on all the social media sites. And the guys in the band was like, well, what am I going to post? He's like, anything, just post anything. just get your name out there. Yeah. I want to move now to the 1989 album Twice Shy, double platinum, nominated for a Grammy. Mista Bone is on this one, top 30 rock radio. The Angel Song is top 40. House of Broken Love, top 10 rock radio. Enters the Hot 100. And then there is the top 10 single, Once Bitten Twice Shy, video in heavy rotation. Originally a 1975 single by Ian Hunter of Mott the Hoople. How did it come to be that you guys recorded that track? Whose choice was it?
Here's what happened. That our album was done, basically. We had enough songs, everything was fine. And then our manager came in with that song, because he managed Guns N' Roses, and I guess Izzy Stradlin, the guitar player, had showed him that song, because we had an album called Once Bitten, and we thought the obvious follow-up should be Twice Shy, but we didn't know about this song. And I knew nothing about Ian Hunter, solo career or anything like that. I just knew him from Mott the Hoople. This was a solo song that was never a hit, but our manager really liked the lyrics a lot, because it was about being on the road and stuff. And we thought it was okay. We go, just make it your own, and we'll put it on the record, as an album track, and see how it goes. So we did that. And, but by coincidence, back when we did the Judas Priest tour, our sound man was good friends with Ian Hunter. And so he wasn't doing nothing at the time. We went by his house and borrowed his drum riser out of his backyard for the tour. He loaned us his he loaned us his
That's
drum
awesome.
riser. He had his backyard. So, but it had nothing to do with doing the song 5 years later. So we have one more encounter with him. He rode on our bus one time. I forget what that was about, but again, this song was brought to us. Niven loved the lyrics because we're always on the road. We've been on the road. You know, we never go home, and so it kind of fit what we did. But had we been desperate and actually needing a cover because of lack of material, the trick is to find a hit, you know, kind of like what Lenny Kravitz did with American Woman. It's like find a song that's already been a hit and then make it your own. We're not going to go hunt down a song that's never been a hit and try to make it one, you know. So it wasn't like we were searching for one. It just came to us and we said, okay, we'll do it. Then the record company totally wigs out because it comes out pretty good and they want to make it the single. And we thought it was okay, you know, but we didn't know it was going to do what it did. And then, so it's out for 7 months, and we literally haven't even gone to the second song yet because everybody's, you know, really gravitated toward it. And
Summer of
really dug
'89. I remember it like it was
and
yesterday.
they can relate to the lyric. They relate to the lyric because you can put once bitten, like I'll never do that again, right? So you can apply it to your life pretty much, you know, with a lot of different things. So yeah, the song did very well. But the thing I thought was funny is it was number one on MTV. It made me realize that your video on MTV has to do with how good the video is. It's just because the song's top 5 in Billboard. So that just moves you up the ladder on MTV. But I think they completely judge your video by where you are on the chart. Because I didn't think that video set any records or anything. I mean, it was cool and fun, but
yeah, well shot, but yeah, it wasn't like a epic big budget Michael Jackson
no,
Thriller thing. But
it wasn't thrill. It wasn't Thriller. I mean,
yeah, I remember that summer, man, summer of '89, and I
yeah.
was in my last year of high school. I remember thinking, I think back, Batman was the big movie. Great White's One Bitten Twice Shy was a big song. You know, I just remember that summer like it was yesterday. Yeah. How about any stories or memories you could share from some of the other hits like Mista Bone?
Mista Bone, yeah. There was actually a guy. He was like an A&R man or something. His name was Mike Bone, and we had him in the video. We did it out in the middle of nowhere at this house and stuff. And it was pretty cool. But yeah, people really dug that song. It was a great live track. You know, a lot of the songs become something from playing live, you know, and you kind of know what they are after playing live a lot, you know, by the reaction of the crowd. That's what's funny. It's like when you play live, it's not like recording because there's that. I've said this before, but there's like a 3-month window after you're done playing. So you got to wait to find out if you're good or not, so to speak. Where when you play live, they let you know right when the song ends. So we can feel what songs are getting the reaction and which ones are, you know, getting the most reaction, and you know maybe others are getting reaction too. But so you can kind of feel the songs that they're responding to.
And that's still in the set list, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we play that. We do a little jam in the beginning. That's one thing to keep it exciting for us. We like to involve the crowd, you know, involve the fans, whether it be singing or, you know, just bring them into the show by doing a few random jams that we don't really know exactly how we're going to do it, you know. So it makes it exciting for us, things that change each night.
That's cool.
Anything to eliminate going through the motions, you know, we like to
Sure.
keep it exciting.
How about House of Broken Love? What do you remember about recording that, writing that?
That's a fan favorite. That, believe it or not, the solo in that took me about 10 hours. And there's nothing hard. Like a 15-year-old that's been playing a year could probably play that solo. But to write it was kind of a pain in the butt because I didn't have anything for it. And there was a lot of solos and fills in that song. So I had to come with something. And so I was just writing it as I went, And by the time I was done, man, my fingers were killing me, just from playing so long, because it's not just the length of the solo. I was playing for like 10 hours off and on, and my fingers were in pain. And I discovered something a friend of mine told me. He says, dip your fingers in Vaseline and it kind of sucks the soreness out. And I did that, and it worked. I couldn't
Wow.
believe it, man. That's cool.
So
It almost feels like your fingers have bruising.
yeah. So did they take from different part? Were you like recording the whole 10 hours and they took
Yeah,
pieces and put
we're
it together?
rolling 2-inch tape, and I was playing along. Then we'd listen back, and I'm just building this cool solo that's I'm trying to make it the best I can. Make it memorable, because the song was so simple that I wanted it to have something else, some musical value besides, these two chords that are going down. So
So
yeah,
it's
it turned out okay.
a
It's
couple
fun.
of years later, 91, Hooked follows. That has Desert Moon and Call It Rock and Roll, which both got heavy airplay on rock radio. Top 20 went gold.
Yeah.
Any good stories on Desert Moon, Call It Rock and Roll?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Desert Moon itself, after we were done with, I think, either the Scorpions or Tesla, I can't remember, but instead of going home, we went to the Bahamas and just like partied down like silly for 5 days, right? So we were kind of in a coma a little bit. We went to New York to Electric Ladyland Studios, where Hendrix
Oh,
recorded and all
yes.
that.
The
And
legendary.
we flew in all the biggest radio station people to come watch us play that song live in Electric Ladyland. And that was joyful. And then we did a really cool video out in the desert at night. And Dean Cain was in that video. I don't know if you know
Superman,
him.
right?
Yeah, he did
Yeah.
the Superman series and stuff. Really cool dude. That was real early in his career. So, these guys love doing music videos. And then Christine Rose, I think she's kind of a model, and she was real personable and got into it, dancing around this fire.
Yeah.
But
And at this point now, is the label
that,
really putting a lot of money behind you guys? Because you're coming off the huge album.
yeah, I think the album could have been a little bit better. I think, in hindsight, you always can fix things.
Yeah.
But I think we fell a little bit short there. That's just my opinion. But a lot of the fans like it. But I don't know. I just think we could have stepped it up a little bit more with maybe the production, a few other things. Just my opinion.
And what did you think of grunge rock when you first heard Nirvana and Soundgarden and Alice in Chains?
Believe it or not, I really felt like the '80s was getting a little watered down toward the end. I mean, the whole decade was wonderful. You had the Doc and Skid Row, all the some really good bands, writing some quality material. But toward the end, because of the big machines out there, they all wanted their Doc in and they wanted their Skid Row. So then you kind of get like toward the end a little bit predictable with the writing. You can almost I can almost give you the lyrics for the chorus before I hear them.
Yeah.
I mean, it becomes that predictable. So when I heard that Nirvana for the first time, I thought it was just awesome.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. It was that, well, for this reason, they just plugged in. It seemed like a band that just plugged in, and it reminded me of us when we were starting out in the garage, kind of crummy, but we didn't care. You know, we just kept doing it, and then we got better. But they had this kind of I don't care attitude, but there was some melody in there
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
really raw ass fucking guitar sounds. I'm going, that singer has something. And what he has is his placement where he puts his vocals aren't like what other guys would do. It's almost like Phil Lynott with Thin Lizzy. It's like if you had another guy sing those songs, he would never place the words where Phil did. You get me?
Yeah.
There's a way to do it that a lot of singers would do it the same, but then you got a Phil Lynott that did it so his own way, but made it so tasteful, but just cool. It's just a rhythmic thing that like an Al Green or, you know, just certain singers have that others don't. Like others got great voices, but they don't have that little extra thing that makes them a real original. And I thought that singer, even though he was just blasting in something, but there were other things he was doing that I go, that's kind of his own. It's like if I put another singer in there to sing that, he would never do it that way. But the way he's doing it is really cool.
Interesting.
So it was a little bit refreshing for me, but at the same time, I go, man, well, maybe we're going to be on hiatus for a while. I'm not going to go out and start playing sounding like Nirvana to keep it going.
Well, but that's some bands were thinking about that, and some bands did that.
We kept just writing the best songs we could, praying people are going to like it, but we never changed anything we did because something's swimming by doing great. So we just went out and we played mid-sized venues instead of arenas.
Stay true to the music, true to who you were.
And all the fans were still there. That's what was cool. Our fans were so loyal that they dug it. They came down to see us play.
Are there any albums during that period in the 90s that you're bummed that it came during that period because they would have done so much better? Like you got 92 Psycho City. Let's see.
Psycho City.
94 Sail Away, right? Let It Rock, 96. I think those.
Psycho City, I felt had that come out like in the 80s somewhere. Just wedge it in there somewhere. I don't know. That probably would have done pretty good. And I think Can't Get There From Here in the late 90s really just missed its time because there was a lot of good stuff on that.
Yeah, the tribute to Zeppelin, though, man, that was an album I think that was received very well because the MTV Unplugged appearance where you're playing Zeppelin songs got a lot of people's attention. And then you released the tribute album from 98, which I'm interested in. The songs that you chose, I thought was really cool. And In the Light was released as a single, which is that's a deep track, from Zeppelin. No Quarter, Tangerine.
Yeah.
That was cool. So what went into the decision making as to which songs?
The idea was because when we did that Unplugged show, the manager called me the night before we did that show and said, "Learn, babe, I'm going to leave you. Jack wants to do it." And I was in shock because we're no way to rehearse. And it's a pretty big arrangement, a lot of picking. And, I'm thinking, this isn't like learning touch. I mean, this is serious shit.
Yeah.
And we went over it in the dressing room. And one time we went through the whole song in sound check. So I'm unsure of this arrangement. But the singer knew it so good that I kind of followed his lead because a couple times I'm going into another part and just kind of noodle my way out of it with some riff that just comes off the top of my head and go, okay, we don't change yet, And it was nerve-wracking. If you're watching the video, man, I'm shaky until the end when I know where it's going to go.
Oh, I didn't know this.
Happy. I put my head up. I'm all happy.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, and Jack Russell nailed it. Great vocals.
Oh yeah. he nailed Plant. So here's what happened. So MTV chose that song to put on their format, in rotation. So now the fans want to hear Zeppelin all the time, and I mean, they really want to hear us play a lot of Zeppelin. They just, because we did that song good, right? So we had a break in our touring schedule, and we go, okay, they want to hear Zeppelin. Let's give them Zeppelin. And so we spent 6 days and learned 18 songs. And most of the songs we did, almost all of them, we didn't do when we were teenagers. We weren't playing in the backyard parties. We weren't playing these songs. So we learned things like In the Light, and Ramble On and some of the other ones, because we had to learn them because we didn't know them. We didn't know them because we didn't play them when we were a teenager. I've never played Stairway to Heaven correctly, except for when we recorded those shows.
That's hilarious. That's always the big joke too. Yeah, right. Everybody knows Stairway to Heaven.
Everybody thinks they know it because you can play the intro thing, but if you go to learn the whole thing, I used to not even play some of the right chords. I wasn't playing the correct chords. So I went to learn that song. I'm going, holy shit! I would never even been close. And some of the other songs, what I noticed a lot, I kind of learned the way Page puts his guitars together when you dissect the songs. He usually has 3 guitar parts. So we had to pick the most dominant 2 because we're playing totally live. And so it all worked out. So
it was one gig only, right? It was from the Galaxy Theater.
No, we played 3 shows.
Oh, 3. Okay.
3 shows. Well, there's a couple songs that we only got right on the last show.
Okay.
Almost every song came from the last show after playing.
The Rover you did? Oh, man.
Yeah, the Rover. Yeah. That one I actually did when I was a teenager, but most of them I didn't do.
I always say Zeppelin 3 I know I love Zeppelin 2, but Zeppelin 3 is like a close second. And I love Tangerine is one song, but that's the way in Tangerine, like that back-to-back tracks on that album.
That's the way. I wish we had done it. I wish we had done That's the Way. I think that song's so good. There's a live version. It's one of the only times I've heard Zeppelin live where Plant is just nailing it. And they also do Going to California like killer. It's like the best they've ever done it live. Plant just all his range was there. He wasn't ditching any notes. He did a couple alternate, melodies, but for the most part, he was hitting it.
How many times did you see Zeppelin live?
I only saw him once.
What year?
Me and a buddy of mine saw him in '75, I believe, and we sat behind the band. But when they walked on stage, I was at this little round gate or little round wall. I could have touched Page. That's how close we were. When you're like 15, how crazy that is. It's like, or no, I guess if 75, I was what was I? 18 years old. I was 18.
You got an up close look at Bonzo smashing away
right
on the
there.
skins.
Right when they walked on stage, we saw the whole band walk on from behind the stage with this Les Paul and shit.
In their prime, yeah.
Man, it's so rad, dude. It didn't really sound that good. I was walking around the arena trying to. The sound, it just wasn't optimum, but it was just to see them and everything was such a big deal.
Amazing.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, amazing. Now, I always wondered, did Jimmy Page ever call up Jack and say, hey, man, because he worked with David Coverdale.
We heard a funny story that Plant said, I guess somebody had played him something, and he said he sounds like more like me than I do.
Yeah, see, he really, I always wondered, Page worked with Coverdale, and
the other funny thing is when Ian Hunter got it back together after that song went huge, and people were asking him why he was playing this Great White Song.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the story of the Kinks, and you really got me. Dave Davies was saying when they came to America in '79 on tour, and one of the young kids comes up to him and he's like, "You did a great cover of Van Halen's. You really got me."
There you go.
And he's like,
Yeah, because they
"Great,
don't
great.
know.
Thanks a
They don't
lot."
know. Look at all this.
Yeah,
But
that's
actually, the Kinks version did get a lot of attention
sure
when it came out.
when it came out.
They had it, but
Yeah.
probably beyond that kid's years.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it was, like one of those younger kids. So after Jack's departure in 2011, you go through lead singer changes, and I'm curious how that experience is like. You had Mitch Malloy at one
Yeah,
point, and then Brett Carlisle in 2022. So it was at a
yeah.
difficult transition and getting new singers in. How many guys did
Very,
you audition? Was it?
very, very easy. Well, with Brett, he just killed it so bad the first show. Like I didn't even know because my headphones, I didn't hear him that good. We auditioned 3 guys. What happened was we had this guy who was already in a band, but he was doing this as a extra gig when his band wasn't busy. He was in this band Last in Line with Vivian Campbell.
Oh yeah,
So if
yeah.
if Def Leppard wasn't busy, then they sometimes went out for a few weeks, and so we're not the type band that wants to just get a different singer every show. So we auditioned 3 singers with a tape. We just stripped the vocals off of some of our big songs and sent it to 3 singers. And Brett happened to be a friend of ours. Friend of ours told us about him. So I told these guys after we picked Brett because he gave the songs the most attention. I go, I'll do this show if we can rehearse once. I don't want to go out there and end my career with somebody I never jam with. So we went to Vegas and we jammed with him all day, and he sounded pretty good. But that night I didn't hear him in my headphones, and some journalists were coming up to me, some fans, they're going, if you don't keep that guy, you're crazy. And then the next day it was like this world news and everything, and I still haven't heard him. I'm wondering what are these people talking about? And then I saw him on YouTube from that show singing Stick It like perfect, and Rock Me just nailing it. And I'm going, holy cow, no wonder they liked it. It
Yeah,
sounds
this is
good.
our guy. Yeah, you look at you got to have that balance. Like you want to have somebody that you can move forward with, make new music with, but also you're thinking the live
Yeah,
show, so you got to have some. Well, although not every band does that. I mean, like
right.
When Motley Crue brought in, oh geez, now I'm all of a sudden drawing a blank. When Vince was out, and they brought in the new singer John Corabi, different
Yeah,
style, different voice. So it's like kind of
yeah,
strange when they play live. Like, how's he going to sound?
yeah. Well, if you ever go on YouTube and see Brett, I believe he's 27 years old. He has that pure tone, and he delivers the songs how people are used to hearing them on the radio. So he just sings the songs verbatim, and I think that's what people want to listen to. If your singer's so far off, you know, from what they're used to, then it kind of weirds them out a little bit.
Yeah, especially because
And
now
we've
live
always,
is where it's at too. People go to the show.
yeah,
And it's amazing nowadays that is. I mean, I remember at one point it was. I'm old enough to remember when a band got a new singer. It was hard to accept. But nowadays you get like Foreigner and
sure,
uh, Styx and you name it,
yeah.
and
I think a
works.
lot of that reason is because the songs are the biggest thing, you know, and a lot of new generations, they just know what they're hearing on the radio. There might be people that don't even know that's not the original Pointer
Journey,
that come to
right?
see the show.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Journey's.
Journey, that singer goes out and just sings his heart out, and people get to enjoy the music, which is what got them to love the band in the first place. But you want a singer that can handle the range, and it is a high range. It's a tenor vocal, so you can't have a guy with a Morrison type range, Jim Morrison
Yeah.
singing "Rock Me." It's like my solo album. I didn't have any Zeppelin on it, you know, I can't. My voice is like maybe Elvis or Steve Ray Vaughan or something. So
Yeah.
I can't pull off any of that skyrocket range.
I thought it was cool that I read that because Jack has Jack Russell's Great White, but I thought you said that's cool. He can, he could keep part of the name. He's got to make a living, which I thought was cool. I mean, it wasn't like there seems to be some mutual respect there in that sense.
Yeah, we wanted him to have a way to make a living, and just going out there as a solo thing probably would have been tough. It's tough on singers that were even in huge bands sometimes to have a career on their own. Very difficult. So yeah, we gave him a way to do that, and no problem.
Yeah, that's cool. This podcast focuses on books on rock and roll, so I'm curious to find out if you have some favorite rock and roll books that you've read growing up or nowadays. Anything?
I read, Ted Templeman's book on Van Halen because
yes.
I was real interested in how the studio thing happened, kind of how he met the band a little bit. I knew a little bit of it, but I wanted to hear details. And then another guy wrote a book. God, I don't know why his name's.
Well, while you're thinking of that name, Greg Renoff, who wrote that book with Templeman.
Yeah, Greg Renoff, yeah.
The other
Greg's
one, The
buddy.
Backyard. Yeah, I know Greg pretty well. Yeah, I mean, that book he wrote on Van Halen.
I spoke with him. I gave him every story I had to include in the book. And then this band I believe they were called Van Halen.
Van Halen, yeah.
Signing,
right.
At his book signing party. And, they dress like Van Halen and everything and did it pretty good. And the original bass player showed up at that show.
Mike Anthony.
I saw a lot of, no, it was Mike Stone.
Oh, Mike Stone, who's recently sadly passed. I think he passed away.
The guy, he was before I guess it was a mutual thing with him leaving the band because he had other interests and whatnot. So Mike Anthony, they actually found by doing a show with Michael Anthony's band, and that's how they hooked up. But so there's a lot of books like that.
Van Halen Rising, yeah, what a book.
I just signed a book deal with.
Oh my God, I was going to ask you this, Mark. Okay, tell me about this. My question is right here. It's question number 18. Have you ever thought about writing a book? Okay, tell us about this.
It's just going to be an autobiography, just kind of tell my story. I think it'll be good for my kids to look at. I got about 4 hours on a tape, and I started doing this years ago. I had a lot of the story going, so I'm just going to kind of go back. I got a year to do it. So
everything's lined up, publisher, the whole thing. It's in the works.
Yeah.
When do you think
I've already signed the deal. I'm just gonna kind of do it, work with somebody, and I'm gonna write it my version. They're not gonna lose anything I'm saying, but they might do it a little bit more pro.
Right.
I mean, I'm not a writer, so. Or they might leave some things alone. This is what I'm told. They're not going to lose any of my story. I'm just going to go back to my childhood and just tell everybody what happened.
Yeah, that's cool. Now, I'm just curious. You don't have to, if you can't say, but the publisher, can you mention who the publisher is yet? Just curious because I deal with so many publishers for the show. I'm wondering if it's one I'm familiar with.
I have the paperwork. I just barely read the contract.
Okay.
But I can let you know later.
Cool. Well, you got a place to promote the book here because that's that's it, man. The name of the show. Yeah, name of the show, Booked on Rock. So this is what we focus on here.
I will. I'll shoot you an email with that info.
Oh, absolutely. Please do.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, and then there's a mention of a documentary in the works on the website. Is that still?
Yeah.
happening.
In fact, I think it comes out tonight. It's all about the 80s. It's on Paramount Plus. I'm not sure what they're calling it. I can't remember the
Okay.
title, but it's going to be a docu-series. I think they're making it now.
All
And
right.
it's all the bands from the 80s decade.
Thought I heard
And
about this. Yeah.
at the M3 Festival, I did, it might be coming out July 6th, not the 26th. I might have that off.
All right. Well, I'm sure on officialgreatwhite.com it'll be posted.
Oh, yeah,
I would
definitely.
think so.
But I did about a 3 hour on camera interview with the director and kind of told them what I remember.
Cool.
So,
Yeah. So people could go to officialgreatwhite.com for the tour dates as well. When's the next gig?
yeah.
What do you got coming up? I can.
We're playing this Saturday. I believe it's in Tennessee.
Let's see. June 29, Dania Beach,
Yeah.
Florida.
Yeah, Dania
Casino
Beach.
DP. Okay.
I'm actually going to see my son. That's right. It's in Florida. I'm going to see my son. He's a marketing director for a CBD company.
Oh,
I haven't
wow.
seen him for a few months now. So he's out of Fort Lauderdale, which is 10 minutes from where we're playing. So
That's
it's
great.
going to be cool to hook
Yeah.
up with him.
July 6th with Brett Michaels, Dee Snider, Steve Augeri. Speaking of, he was in Journey. He had a great run with Journey and Slaughter.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you got it's mixed up nicely here. You know, shows with Stephen Piercy, Slaughter, Stephen Adler, Vixen. Then there's one
Yeah.
I see July 20 with Ace Frehley.
Ace, dude. I know. It's so funny, I hear derogatory every once in a while, there's that hater, as they call it these days, and will say something derogatory. Are you kidding me? I go, I didn't know. There was nobody. When I was like 14 years old, everybody in the neighborhood was playing air guitar to Ace Frehley. I mean, the
There's
guy
nobody
is
like him. Yeah,
that legend, He
and,
might
and
not be the most technically,
but the
or whatever,
feel,
but
he's got the feel, the touch. He's got that. He's
yeah,
got
I
that
mean, he
it
touched the
factor
whole
on guitar.
generations of people. Generation,
And
It's
some of
like,
the funniest
Ace,
stories. Some
dude.
of the funniest.
Oh, bet.
Driving the wrong. What is he
Yeah.
driving like 100 miles an hour on the freeway, going the wrong way? It's just
Oh, shit.
yeah, it's Ace.
Yeah, I got plenty of those.
Oh man. Yeah. Well, and by the way, congrats, Mark. Yeah, you see, you've been clean and sober for a long time. That's the other thing. You're.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, I've been kind of, you know, just kind of decided. I mean, I had quit before but I went and the extra mile this time and kind of changed some of my character defects and did, a little bit of self work and stuff. And I work with other people, that might be struggling.
I saw that
Kind of,
online. Yep.
yeah. So I've, become kind of an advocate, I guess, and always get involved in case there's somebody out there that just thinking about it that might just need a couple of encouraging words. Go, hey, I know that guy. He plays guitar, man. He's sober. Maybe I'll try. Just I've gotten a lot of people. Like I've worked with over 150 people in the past 10 years, and seen a lot of success, man.
That's great.
So it's fun to do that.
That's great to hear. Well, thanks, Mark. This was awesome. Loved asking you a bunch of questions about Great
Awesome,
White.
Eric.
Yeah, and Van Halen, of course. That's always my band, so can
Yeah.
always talk Van Halen. So, yeah, thanks, man. This was awesome.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate it, man.